Hi there, juniors. Happy Monday. I'm sorry that I can't be with you in class today to go through this live, but I do feel a little bit comforted at least knowing that many of you are very familiar with using vocab.com for our vocabulary instruction, and that is kind of the main goal of class today, to get you back into the swing of vocab.com. Please keep one thing in mind, juniors. I know there are some of you out there that have probably already gone down to my chart. You're like, hey, cool, I know what I'm doing. You found the list this week, you copy pasted that link, and you've already started. Hold your horses, okay? I'm saying this because every teacher's a little different. Some things have changed in the 2 years since you've had me, so I want to make sure you don't miss anything crucial because you are juniors and you already know what you're doing. So just to make sure, stay with me. Go to the weekly agenda in Canvas. Click on that weekly agenda link. We're going to go into week 2, and of course, we're looking under Monday. So I'm hoping some of you had the thought to look ahead and say, hey, okay, what's the first step before I just jump straight to vocab.com? Believe it or not, the first step is actually joining my vocab.com class. There's a reason we do this, and I will be checking later on Monday to make sure that everybody is in the appropriate class and that nobody's been forgotten. Vocab.com can kind of get fun when you start to have a little bit of intra-class competition and possibly even inter-class competition, us versus maybe 6th hour, 7th hour, 8th hour playing each other, or even us playing against, say, Mr. Dingledine's juniors. But we can't do any of that if you are not in a class. So don't miss this all-important first step. Whatever class hour you have me for, please go ahead and click the appropriate link. I'm going to go ahead and just select the 5th hour class here, and we're going to 5th hour. If you haven't joined, if you've never signed up before, that might only apply to a handful of you. Valeria comes to mind. It's going to prompt you to go ahead and sign up for vocab.com. So go ahead and just sign up using your normal username and password, which is that email address and your PCSC password. I will ask you, please, regardless of what your name was in the past, juniors, if I cannot currently see your real name up here, like if you put Bubba Boy up here, that's not going to work for me this year, especially with us being virtual at the beginning, because in order for you to get your points on Friday, I have to know that this is you. So please use the name that appears in PowerSchool or the name that I know you by, if you would, as your name in vocab.com. You may have to go in here and click to switch it under your profile. For those of you that may have a more creative version of your name, it might be under my profile, could be under my account. Play around though if you need to change your name to make it appropriate. Okay, I'm not talking about for content, but to make sure that it is your name. Okay, now once you're signed up, or once you've clicked that link, for those of you already signed up, it's going to tell you, hey, you've just joined 5th hour, 6th hour, 7th hour, 8th hour, whichever hour you're in, it'll tell you if you've joined the right class. Please make sure you're careful to choose the right class. Now, what it should also be doing is prompting you somewhere in this upper right corner. It should say something like, hey, you've got an assignment. Guys, that's part of the reason I'm asking you to join the class. You know what's really great? You no longer have to go to a home screen in Canvas, and this might be familiar if you had a teacher who did this last year as sophomores. You don't have to go to this chart now every single Monday and copy this link and paste it at the top. You don't have to do that anymore. Because once you've joined my class, it's going to be prompting you for an assignment. I've already put that assignment in there for that class. Now, you notice I don't have that prompt up here, and I'm assuming it's because I must have been in here earlier. But I do have this little 3 lines with the red circle there. That's telling me I have an assignment. So I'm going to go here and click on Assignments and Activities where that red circle is, and it's going to say, hey, these are all the practices you should be working on, Mrs. Schemenauer. Now, I have 6 assignments because I have 6 classes that I've joined. You're only going to have 1, okay? So I'm going to scroll down and click on my 5th hour's assignment since I'm pretending to be at 5th hour. And you guys are well aware of the fact, boom, you're here, you can get started on your practice. However, juniors, I know the temptation is to just jump in guns blazing, but let me remind you of a couple things with vocab.com. The more often you miss a word, the more they make you practice it. So if you want to be done this as fast as possible, and I would say I think 15 to 25 minutes is pretty normal. I've seen kids do it in 15 to 25. They've started on Monday, they finished before the end of class. It's possible. It requires you to, however, know what the words mean and not miss a whole lot of these, because if you miss a bunch of these, you're going to be practicing a whole lot longer. So let me encourage you, rather than just jumping in, Number one, always make sure you're playing the right list. Down here is where it tells you what list you're currently playing. This is the right list, so I'm good. But we're going to click on this Return to List button first. Okay, and this is actually something we typically do every Monday as a class, is I'm going to have you open up the list together. We're going to go over the words as a class every Monday, and I like to talk through the list. I like us to not just look at the definition, but to talk about like scenarios when you might see the word, to talk about synonyms, sometimes antonyms, because we're trying to make some mental connections and really figure out, okay, what does this word mean? I don't want it to just get all blended up with all the other things you're learning. If we can get some connections, you're less likely to miss it when you start practicing. So let's just take a minute. We'll talk through the words. I'll point out a few other things that I would highly recommend you do as you're studying these words, especially before quiz time. Okay, first word on the list, abandon. Now, we know abandon can be something you do. It can be a verb, but here it's telling me it's a trait, which means we're talking about it as a noun. So abandon is a trait of not having restraint or control. Now, I'm always going to recommend as you're studying these to not just read the word and definition. Okay, take the time, click on the word, and actually read the extended definition, because sometimes they give some really great examples that will give you that mental picture in your head to help you remember what that word means. Like here it tells me if you're in a cabin and a forest fire approaches, you better get in your car and abandon your cabin. That's as a verb. Leave your cabin behind, or else be prepared to abandon your life. And sometimes they even like to be funny. As we scroll down, we can see that yes, abandon can mean to leave behind, a verb, or as we have today, it's the trait of not having restraint or self-control. For example, I think of dancing with abandon. There's a quote out there that's the idea, dance as if nobody's watching. That would be dancing with abandon if you're dancing like nobody's watching. Okay, so you can always scroll down and you can see how many different definitions there are for a word. You can see things like your synonyms. If you're abandoning your life, you're giving it up, relinquishing it, renouncing it, some good synonyms. If there are antonyms, they would give you antonyms as well on this page. And keep in mind, the more definitions a word has, the longer it's going to take to master that word, because there are so many different kinds of meanings that are going to get thrown at you in vocab.com. We're looking at abandon in this case as a noun. Remember the trait of lacking restraint? Some good synonyms for that would be unrestrained, unconstrained, wantonness, great word, wildness, passion, passionateness. I've never heard of that word before. Apparently that's a word. So giving you some good synonyms to help you remember when someone acts with abandon, it's like they're dancing like nobody's watching. Going back to the list here, number 2, composedly, very self-collected, very self-possessed. That doesn't mean possessed like a demon. We're talking about composed, right? Calm, deliberate. They say you might composedly repair a broken window before your parents get home instead of getting upset like your younger brother would. Because at being older, hopefully you're calmer and a little less likely to fly off the handle, right? Being older and wiser. Juniors. Number 3, elixir, a substance believed to cure all ills. So think elixir, I kind of picture those old-fashioned wagons that would go through town, and the guy in the wagon would be selling these supposed cure-alls. Hey, drink this and you'll grow long, luscious hair. Drink this and you'll all your freckles will disappear, whatever it is they come up with. Elixirs. Forming a mental picture really does help you remember what the words mean. Elusive, difficult to detect or to grasp by your mind. Click on the word elusive. It's going to tell you things that are elusive are hard to find. It's hard to pin down. They're hard to remember. They just slip right out of your mind. If you've ever met someone and you're like, oh, I know you. I know your face. I can't remember your name. Your name is so elusive to me. It just slipped my mind. That's sometimes what I think of for elusive. See if they give us some good synonyms here. Problematic, difficult or hard. That can be a synonym for elusive if it's the kind of elusive that makes great mental demands. Like the idea of, for me, physics, chemistry were very elusive subjects. They took a lot out of me. I found them hard to comprehend. They were very naughty, K-N-O-T-T-Y. They were baffling. I hope for you English is not quite as elusive as, say, upper level science and math classes would be. Number 5, exalted, of high value, either moral value or intellectual value. I'm curious what examples they'll give us here. The exalted queen enjoyed regular processions in her honor. So someone who's raised up, exalted. Going on back to the list here. After exalted, we've got number 6, forestall. And this one should be fairly simple to remember if you think about the stall at the end. What are you doing if you're stalling? Let's say your parents ask you a question and it's a question you really don't want to answer, so you kind of stall for a while. Well, what does it mean? It means you're putting something off, right? To keep from happening or arising, to make something impossible. So forestall, putting something off. Number 7, illumination. Oh, I'm sorry, every time I hear this, all I hear in my head are little minions saying, illumination! We know that illuminate has something to do with light, right? And in this case, we're talking about a spiritual light or a spiritual awareness or awakening. It can be literal light. I know I think about illumination like a light bulb illuminates a room. So yes, illumination is any kind of light. Kids up past their bedtime have been known to read entire books under the covers using only the illumination of a flashlight. So even though our definition tends to put less of a literal, more of a figurative, the idea of a spiritual awareness down here, this kind of illumination, it can be as simple as something being lit up, either figuratively or literally. All right, after illumination, we've got number 8, impose. Anything is being imposed, it's being inflicted upon you, not necessarily something you want to do. Like if you have plans to go out for the weekend, but mom and dad ask you to babysit, they're imposing a little on your time, right? They're asking you to do something that isn't necessarily pleasant. Let's see what they come up with here for impose. If you want to impose your musical taste on your parents, I love this. Play your tunes all day at top volume. Please don't do that. They will not thank you for that. Don't. Imposing is kind of putting upon someone else. Enforcing, compelling, bringing down, obligating, obliging. It looks like they've also got this word impose. This is kind of a different definition. You can impose something means to charge or collect payment. So if you're imposing taxes on someone, synonym, levying taxes, think of like bills or charge cards, right? They're imposing that payment on you. So lots of good synonyms when you take the time to look them up there. All right, next word after impose, number 9, repression. Pushing something down, holding something down. Of course, we know that idea of press means holding down. What is repression? Holding back, holding down. It's when you feel like you want to cry, but you don't. You hold it back. They talk about social repression, where like a government is holding or limiting freedom, holding people back from what they should be able to do. Repression, being pushed back. Number 10, subtle. Something that's difficult to detect. It's very, very unnoticeable almost, okay? They talk about here something not obvious, okay? And they say that a professional food taster might be able to perceive subtle differences of flavor that, most of us, hey, cheese is cheese is cheese. I don't care if it's Colby or cheddar, I'm probably not going to know the difference, right? Maybe I don't have that subtle taste bud that a professional food taster would have. It's not just for taste. Other things can be subtle, like maybe you make a subtle comment, a subtle hint. Hey, Mom, I'd really like this for Christmas, whatever it is. That subtle means just barely noticeable, if noticeable at all. Number 11, tumultuous, characterized by unrest, disorder, insubordination. I know I see the word tumultuous and I focus in on this word tumult. Tumult is just like noise, chaos, craziness. I kind of picture like a classroom of kindergartners who had way too much sugar in the morning, all over the place, tumultuous. And then number 12, vacant. Vacant, try to think of like a vacant lot, right? Or if something that's vacant, there's no one's anywhere, right? So when a person's mind is vacant, void of thought or knowledge, it's just empty. Vacant and emptiness are synonyms. You can use the adjective vacant to describe anything that's empty. An apartment with no tenants, or furniture, it would be a vacant apartment. A job with no worker, it's a vacancy in the occupation. There's nobody to do the job. Or, sadly enough, please don't call your siblings this. Don't say you are vacant, because you're basically saying they're empty-headed. I know some good synonyms for vacant, empty. Also, the word vacuous comes to mind. Again, not a compliment. Don't call each other vacant. Okay. So once we've gone through a new list of words on a Monday and talked them through, and normally I'd ask you a lot more questions or ask for some examples from you. Since we're doing a screen recording, I'm just kind of providing some examples for you. You would then jump into a practice. And I know you guys are well aware of this. If you've had vocab.com before, that you go to this button right here and you click Start Practice. Now, just a reminder, as you're practicing, sure, you can go single screen and practice and test your memory, but why? We're trying to learn these words, and the more often I have to guess, the longer it's going to take me to master the word. So I'm going to recommend to you instead that you take the time to hold down that 2 square window up here. Hold it down, don't just tap it, and click Open New Window. It allows you then to split screen, and you can go to vocab.com in your second screen. You can go up to those 3 little lines where that circle was, go back to your red circle, find the name of the list, right? Find the list, which if you go to the bottom where that white bar is, it's the 3 little lines at the bottom here. And I can actually, if I don't remember what subtle means, I can go up, there it is, difficult to detect or grasp by the mind or analyze. Well, I'm still not quite sure. I'll click on subtle. Let's look at my synonyms. Right there I see elusive, and I see elusive over here. I've just solved it by pulling up the vocab list. So then I can go back to my list by hitting the back arrow. And this little arrow right here in the middle, remember, is what allows you to go to the next screen. Guys, I'm going to highly recommend, if it took you a while, like say you missed this one 2 or 3 times, pause here, skim over the notes, because that's going to help you not miss it the next time it comes up. The more often you miss, the more you got to repeat the word. As you can see down here, I probably only need to answer 3 more questions on subtle, and it will be mastered, okay? So you want to just keep going through this way. Forestall, what does it mean? Let's see. Forestall, find a synonym, and I see, oh, look, I've got, let's see, prevent, foresee, what's something that's close to this? Maybe preempt. Preempt is pretty close. So again, it's giving you just a chance to study the words on the side while you play. Now, one thing that I found that some juniors aren't aware of, if you wait for just a couple of seconds when you are on a question, notice what just popped up here underneath the question. It tells you that if you're not sure, you've got a few options. You can choose a 50-50, which will take 2 of the options away. You can choose a word in the wild, which will give you a sample sentence in which the word is used to help you figure out what the word means. Or sometimes you can even just click definition and it'll bring the definition up. Hints are not bad to use, but I do want you to be aware that when you use a hint, you're going to get fewer points when you answer that question. And ultimately, as for in-class competition, we want to try to get as many points as we can. It's also what causes you to level up in your badge. So if you can figure it out without a hint, great, do it. But if you're really struggling, you don't want to miss it, because you don't want to have to do this word 10 more times, then use your hints at the bottom there. So let's see, which of these people is most likely to have a vacant expression? Probably the teenager staring off into outer space there. All right. So I'm going to get back to our main list, which I can do by coming down to the bottom and clicking on. Let me see, it's a little different on this screen. Oh, I know. I'll just go up to here and go to my assignments and activities to get back to my main list, story of an hour. And now I should have, where's my list button? It doesn't look like it's there anymore. Maybe if I go past the screen. There we go, return to list, there it is. So you might be wondering at this point, okay, how do I get my points at the end of the week? At least if you're newer, you might be asking that. When you scroll down this list, it shows you how far you've gone in each of the different words. And you can see I haven't practiced long yet, but hey, look, this word here is at 25%. Keep going, this one's at 25%. The more I practice, eventually this wheel is going to get to 100%, and when it does, it turns gold. Okay, so what you're going to do by Friday is you're trying to get as many of these circles to go gold as you can. On Friday, I take a score out of 10. Now, you might have noticed there are 12 words on this list. So what does that mean for you if you master all 12 words on the list? Well, that means you're going to get 2 bonus points on that list. And each and every week, if you just learn the entire list, you have 2 built-in bonus points for the week. Now, this is not a list I've mastered, so let me give you an example when it comes to turning things in. I'll pull up one that I have mastered in the past to be able to show you as an example. All right, so let's just say this is a list that I'm wanting to turn in on Friday. Now, when we're in person, no problem. You'll open up whatever list, however many lists you've mastered, you show them, you'll scroll, I'll count circles, and we'll be good to go. But right now, guys, we're virtual. And so for at least this Friday, and for anyone, and next Friday, and for anyone who's staying virtual, you're going to need to turn in your vocab list through email. Okay, so listen very closely if you're a virtual student, or at least for those of us that are virtual for 2 weeks. If you master the entire list, you only need to submit to me through email 1 screenshot, and it's this screen right here. Okay, now here's why. If you master the entire list, this circle right here is gold. If it's not gold, I'll see it and I'll know, hey, they didn't master their whole list. But if you did, this is gold. So there are 3 things you need to make sure you encapsulate in your screenshot. Number 1, I need to see your name in this top right corner. That's how I make sure the list is yours. Number 2, if you mastered the whole list, I need to see that this is gold right here. Okay, and then number 3, I need to at least be able to see the first word of the list. That's how I make sure that you're on the right list, that you're turning in the right thing. So you will screenshot this, and then you would turn in the list through email. And this is really important. Don't miss this, please. The title of your email needs to be whatever the title of the list is. So if I were turning this list in for points, I know you're English 11, but I would turn this in PHS English 9, word root number 9, MAL. That is the exact title I would use for the title of my email. And let's just say you're turning in multiple lists for bonus points. We're going to talk about bonus points in just a moment here. Each list you turn in is a separate email that you send to me. Okay? So, where's all this bonus points you keep talking about, Mrs. Schemenauer? Back here on the Canvas homepage, okay, remember how we had that chart here? This in the middle, right here, that's your main vocab list. That's the one everyone's required to do. That's the one that's automatically going to pop up as soon as you sign into vocab.com because I've assigned it to you in your class. Now, as you scroll across, one thing that we started last year, I believe, is when this began, we introduced some prefixes to the junior curriculum. And you might wonder, well, why are we learning prefixes? First, we're only going to learn 1 a week. It's not too bad. Freshmen are learning 2 each week, so you guys get a little bit of a break here being juniors. But it's really beneficial when you see a prefix and you know what a prefix means, because if you have another word that you don't maybe necessarily know what it means, but you know what some of the parts of the word mean, it's easier to figure out what that word means. So if I know, okay, anti, that's our prefix of the week, by the way, guys. This will be something we also review together each Monday. Anti means against or opposed. And normally what I would do in a live class at this point is say, okay, on a piece of paper, write down 2 words, at least 2 words with the prefix anti in it. So see what you can come up with on the fly. Try to come up with some words that begin with anti. Off the top of my head, first thing that popped into my head was anti-American. Okay, if you accuse someone of being anti-American, you're basically saying they're not being very patriotic. They act like they're against America, anti-American. What I copy and pasted here, you'll find, is one of our first bonus opportunities. Okay, for each of these prefixes that we learn, there's going to be a link that goes with it that takes you to, and I'm going to put it up here so you can see it, that takes you to the first of your bonus opportunities. It's going to take you to an entire list of anti-words. Now, your regular vocab list each week will always have 12 words. However, the prefix list sometimes will have 12, sometimes may have fewer. It's hard to tell until you go there, but let's see what words this list came up with. We got antithesis, antipathy, antibiotic, anticlimax, antidote, antiseptic, antisocial, antihero, antimatter, and antisemitism. Okay? So it looks like this is a list at one point I mastered, but if you take the time, you open this list, you do the same thing. You go to start practice, you practice the list, and if you also submit this screenshot, okay, with your name, list mastery shows me 100%, and by the way, on all your bonus, you would need to have 100% of that list completed in order to get the bonus point. If you were to submit this list by the end of the class day Friday, which remember early release is now 2:45 on Friday, if that's in my email by 2:45, that would be an extra bonus point. So let's just say you did your first list, which remember was called the story of an hour, that you did the whole list, that's 12 points, and now you did the anti-list, that's 13 points. So now we're up to 13 out of 10, 3 bonus points every single week, but let me show you one more. Yes, there's more. One more bonus opportunity for you juniors. You know, I do think it's really important as you're going into your junior year here. I know for many of you, you are looking at taking your SAT this year. For some of you, it's going to be coming up here in just a few months in the fall. Some of you will wait till the spring. I highly recommend, guys, that you don't just take it once. You know, you can always improve upon your score, and unless you just get a stellar 1600 first time around, yeah, consider taking it multiple times if you're able to. But one great way to get you ready for that SAT test coming up here this year as juniors, which, by the way, everyone's taking, even if you're not, going to college, because remember the SAT is the new exit test. It's not the I-STEP anymore, it's that SAT. This is a great way to prepare, guys. I can't stress this enough. If I were going to pick between the two bonuses and I only had time to do one, anti is great, but I would probably put my time into this SAT practice list. But just like we did for the URL up above, you can copy this link. Make sure I got the whole thing here. Copy, go up to the top, create a new window, and paste to go. And each week, in order to help you get ready for your SAT so you can get the best possible reading score or English score that you can, we're going to give you an SAT list as well each week with words like antagonism, enigma, extraneous, flagrant, some great vocabulary that you're highly likely, mitigate, pragmatic, these are great words, that you're highly likely to see on an upper level reading test or English test. Again, if you finish it by the end, see, I think, yes, this one I did finish. If you finish this by the end of the day on Friday by 2:45, and you take this screenshot just like this with your name, list mastery with that 100% circle and that first word, that's another bonus point we're going to add on for a possible 14 out of 10 every single week. Now, again, for some of you may think, well, Mrs. Schemenauer, I'm probably not going to do the bonus, and what I really want to know is what happens, and I'm going to go back to our main list this week, what happens if I don't master the entire list? Like, what if I just have, 10 out of 10? If you have a 10 out of 10, then this circle here is not going to be gold. It might be, 97% or 88%. If that's the case, you cannot turn in just one screenshot. What you would need to do is actually send in multiple screenshots so that I could see the entire list. All right, so here would be the first one, there would be my second one, there would be my third one in order to show every single word, as well as it shows me which ones are mastered, which ones are almost mastered, which ones aren't even started. Okay, so to clarify, if you don't master every word in the list, it's going to take multiple screenshots that you'll have to send me via email, all one email, titled the name of the list. So you would call it PHS 11A, the story of an hour, and that's what you would have to send me in my email. So to clarify, altogether, you've got 14 potential bonus points available to you each and every week just from doing a little bit of extravocab.com to grow your vocabulary. We've got 2 possible extra bonus points here in the basic list that everyone's required to do. You've got 1 extra bonus point available to you if you tackle the prefix list of the week. And then you've got 1 extra bonus point by completing that SAT prep list each and every week. So just to clarify a few things with bonus, bonus does not apply if it's submitted late. Okay, so anytime something's late, you won't be able to, if you turn in at 5 o'clock on Friday, all the list, I'm sorry, I can't give you bonus for your prefix, your SAT list because it is late. I can't even give you the bonus on your basic list. Anything that's after 2:45 is considered late. So be very conscientious if you're going to get that bonus. Maybe don't wait till Friday morning to get started, okay? Let's start today. It's Monday. That's kind of the main thrust of today's class is really just getting you going on vocab. So before I let you go, before I send you off to start working on your vocab this week, I do want to point out one last thing under my homework agenda here. Notice that every single day this week, homework vocab.com is going to show up on there. Just as a reminder, you have till Friday to master as many words as you're wanting in regards to however many points you want. Remember, minimum is 10. The other thing I want to remind you of is we had our first writing assignment on Friday. It was a benchmark assignment, so a smaller assignment, asking you to talk to me about your COVID-19 experience, whether you would describe it as the good, the bad, or the ugly. For some of you, I have not yet received that, and I'm going to put a list up here on the board for you. I'll start with 5th and 6th hour. If your name is showing on this list, that means when I checked on Saturday morning, which remember is after 5 p.m., it is considered late, I had not yet received your essay on COVID there, so that's my 5th and 6th hour. And then for those of you 7th and 8th hour, this is the list of names of people that I'm still waiting on the essay, at least as of Saturday morning. I will be grading these in the next couple days, so if you've turned it in since then, I will remove your name from the list. But keep in mind, your goal is not just to turn that essay in, but to take the time to read at least 2 other students' responses and then leave them some feedback as well. Point out what you liked, what you didn't like, comment on their writing style, but that's also part of the grade as well, making sure that you're leaving some feedback for at least 2 other classmates. So if you didn't do that, please notice that really that's the homework for tonight. make sure that you've gotten that turned in as well as left feedback on 2 other students' essays. And then keep working on your vocab for the week. That's it for me. I hope that you have a great rest of your Monday, and I look forward to being back with you, sort of back with you virtually for class tomorrow. Take care.